Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Rainbow Crossing, a podcast where Gen X and Gen Z discuss life's challenges and how we face them as queer people. We have these open conversations to foster a sense of community through different perspectives. My name is Julio Guzman, and with me is...
Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Hi, Julio.
What's up?
I like your glasses.
Thanks. It's week 3 with them.
You can see again.
I can see, and it's been a good journey. I also haven't realized how blind I was until now I do take them off, and I'm like, okay, now I've been living life this way for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I've never had glasses or contacts. Definitely was blessed with some good vision. Mm-hmm. And I am definitely about at that point where I need to get at least readers or something.
Yeah. Well, as you get older, things start to happen.
To the best of us.
For sure.
Yeah.
I am tired from past Halloween, my mom's B-Day, working nonstop. I drove to see my mom for her birthday last minute, unexpectedly. Mostly because I've been celebrating Halloween and my mom's birthday's on Halloween.
Right.
And I was like, I can't be that son to celebrate something more than I celebrate my mother. So I drove 3 hours right after my 6, 7, 9, and noon coaching shifts. Then I drove 3 hours.
Yeah.
Had dinner with my mom, drove back, and then haven't stopped since.
You're young.
Oh, yeah. So I can go to the line every single time, fumes nonstop.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that energy. I love that you love to see me on empty.
Yeah. No, you've got it in you. And I know your mom really appreciated it. So
for sure. It was nice for me as well, too.
Yeah.
Like, I love seeing my family. And
of course.
I also saw my nephews and one of my nieces, and we went trick-or-treating, took them out. So
yeah,
it was nice.
And your sisters are big supporters of the podcast, too.
Oh, for sure. A little too much. I'm like, girl, can we talk about me instead, please?
I mean, this is you also.
In a way, but when someone's like, oh my God, podcast. Everyone's talking to me about the podcast, which I love. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, I'm still a person outside of the podcast, people. Can we talk about something else?
Yeah. I'm just glad they're excited and supportive of you and everything.
Sure. It's been nice.
Yeah. But, speaking of being exhausted, we are at the home stretch right now of the 2024 election. And everyone is exhausted. And I think both sides, not that I'm really talking to that many people on the Trump side of things, but I'm exhausted. I haven't told you this yet. I texted a couple of friends, David, who was on our podcast, if he and his partner, his husband, Carlos, might be interested in coming over Tuesday to kind of watch a little bit of it. They go to bed at like 8 p.m. So they'd only be here for a minute, but I need the support. And I know you're here, but it is so stressful and things seem to be tipping to the left with the new polls and everything, but everybody's anxious about it right now.
1,000%.
And by the time this airs, this will air the day after. We don't know if we'll know who the president will be when this airs, because oftentimes it takes a couple of days. But if things go the way people are indicating, we might just see, hopefully, a landslide victory.
I hope so.
On Tuesday night.
For sure. For Kamala, obviously.
Yes.
Let's be more specific here.
Those are our hopes.
Yeah, you got to say the words that you want. You can't just say landslide and then leave it blank.
Let's speak it into existence.
There you go.
For sure.
Which, obviously, I would love for her to win.
Yeah.
Out of the other option that we have.
Of course.
But once she wins, we need to hold her accountable for what we want. Because that's what everyone's saying. Everyone's like, there's crazy things going on right now. So vote for her. Just vote for her so we can get her in.
Yeah.
But once we get her in, we, the people, have to stand up for what we want. And if she's not giving what we want, we got to hold her accountable like she says she wants us to.
Sure.
So
absolutely,
that's where I'm standing.
That's our part of the job, is to hold our elected officials accountable.
Which no one does. Everyone thinks that they win. Okay, moving on. We're safe now. And it's like, no, that's just the beginning of the work. Yeah. Especially how things have been going lately. That's just the start, in my opinion.
I mean, it's a complicated system. Holding a person accountable who you elected into office, there's so many other moving parts, particularly the presidency. They answer to Congress. And if there isn't a Democratic-leaning Congress, then a lot of the measures that she wants to pass will get stopped or held up, most likely. So it's really challenging, but it doesn't mean that we stop holding people accountable. We still need to be talking about the issues that are important to us, the people, because they represent us, the people. The normal people, as vice presidential hopeful J.D. Vance said, that he believes
Not normal people.
the normal
gay
gays
vote.
he said, yes, at a rally, I think it was last week, that he believes that the normal gay guys will be voting for Trump. What is a normal gay guy?
Well, to him, I'm sure it's someone who believes that men are still superior than everyone else. And even though those people think that they have a place at the table, baby, they still think you're going to hell.
Yeah.
FYI, if you haven't seen or read or have looked into most of that party, they don't care about you.
Right. I think, in addition to what you're saying, he means a normal gay guy is someone who isn't flamboyant, who is very masculine, traditionally male masculine, who obviously is probably white.
Who obviously doesn't love himself.
Who, yes, is probably more closeted than not closeted and isn't talking about being gay, isn't going to gay pride. I don't know that those are normal gay. I think normal is being your true, authentic self.
For sure.
And the days of living in the closet, which was normal at one point in time in the world, those days are gone. And that's where they want us to be. They want us to push us back in the closet. But that's a pipe dream on the Republican Party's part.
I mean, to be honest, some things that the gays do could be toned down a little bit if I'm being honest with us. But what he thinks is normal is not normal.
Right.
That's more of like, they don't want you to express yourself and be who you want to be. But hey, that's not the right idea.
No, not at all. He mentioned that he has an unnamed gay friend who
Sleeps with
reportedly... I wouldn't put anything past.
I mean, hey, Trump made a gesture of sucking dick the other day, so who knows what's happening behind those closed doors? It's always the people that have the most hatred to spew that are the ones low key.
Yeah.
Putting something in their mouth.
The rest of the world is looking over at us and is like, why is this a close race?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Fueled by racism, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. And for the Christian-leaning people, the abortion issue, like people are still voting against abortion. The Republican Party is supposed to be the party of less government. The fact that they want to legislate other people's bodies, that's not a party of less government.
Hello, sir. How about we cut off your penis and make you not reproduce? How about we try that?
There are other measures other than cutting penises off.
Well, that's not completely what I meant. I mean, like, literally chop it off.
Yeah,
But
a vasectomy.
yeah, if they want to control women and say you can't do this, you can't do that, then how about we play it both ways?
Men would never.
Maybe a woman does need to be in charge.
I'm hopeful and I'm excited for it.
I hope so.
I mean, she's not the first female leader in the world.
No.
Plenty of other countries have had female
But
leaders.
she is the first person running for president who has served in all three branches of the government.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good,
That's exciting.
in my opinion, because she kind of knows what she's doing. If you think she's not qualified, she's probably more qualified than anyone we've probably ever had.
Right.
In regards to report card.
Absolutely. Yeah. The idea that she's not qualified, people saying that is absurd given who the other candidate, the other main candidate is. In other gay news, did you hear about Mr. Shawn Mendes?
Yeah, that's my baby.
Yeah.
Hello.
He's many people's babies.
No. That's my baby.
Just yours? I thought your baby was Hassan.
I can't believe you just said that out loud.
Yeah.
That's my man.
Your man.
There's a
Okay.
difference.
There's a big difference between those two.
Oh, for sure.
Individuals.
My man and my baby.
Yeah.
I'm like right there in the middle.
I'm sure you would love to be. But Shawn Mendes was at a concert in Colorado, I believe.
Red Rocks, beautiful
Yes.
venue.
Yeah. He was talking about his sexuality and basically said that he was trying to figure it out. He didn't know exactly. He thought at one point he did, and he's just on this journey.
Which is a normal thing.
It's a very normal
Very
thing.
normal thing if everyone just chills out for a second.
Yeah. Normally, I think that we would both agree that you don't need to put a label on yourself or anyone else.
Nope.
However, it is, as someone who has this platform, who has millions of fans and followers, I think a lot of people are going to look to him and maybe even like breathe like a sigh of relief, like, oh, he doesn't know? Well, then it's okay if I don't know. And I'll continue to explore and figure it out. Because ultimately, it would be awesome to get to the point where
Who
in
cares?
this world that who cares? It doesn't matter. And
It really does not.
Right. And obviously, we all live on this spectrum of sexuality. And some of us are very gay, some of us are very straight, but a lot of people are somewhere in the middle, and some people might be mostly gay, but there's that one woman who really does it for them, or vice versa. It would be nice to get to that point where he doesn't have to say things like that, but it's awesome that he is this example for other people who might be going through the same thing.
1,000%. I mean, who knows what I'm going to be like years from now. I think I have it figured out, but the way men been playing, girls,
Yeah.
a couple years from now, who knows? Might get me a little girlfriend. Might get me a wife.
Yeah.
I already promised my best friend from high school, who I used to have a crush on, that by the age of 30, we'd get married. If we're both single.
Time is
and
ticking.
Time is ticking. We're 4 years away. Almost. In a couple of weeks, we'll be 4 years away.
Yeah.
But, hey, she's probably going to provide more in a relationship in regards to who I am and what I want and what we can give each other than a man probably could.
Yeah.
At least I think that. No man has came up with that standard for me, at least. Or if they did, they're taken.
Yeah.
So, happy for y'all.
It's interesting to watch my younger friends grow up, because I have had a friend who I thought was gay, but I guess he was bisexual, because he's married now, has 2 kids.
With a woman?
With a woman.
Work.
Yeah, yeah. Seems very happy. Like he doesn't live here. I don't talk to him regularly, but we still follow each other on social media. And it's not like he hid all of his gay friends and blocked all of us or anything. Not at all. That's a part of his past. And his future is a little different than at least the people who were friends with him thought.
It's just like, who cares?
Yeah.
You be you. If you're being you and you feel authentically yourself and you love who you love, who cares if it's a boy one day? Who cares if it's a girl one day?
Yeah.
As long as you're giving them everything, that's all that matters. Or unless y'all are content with how things are, it can be whatever you want it to be.
Sure. It's just that it was for so long, anything that was outside of the quote unquote norm was viewed as deviant and as wrong.
Yeah.
And
well, the norm is changing.
The norm is changing, but it does take these brave individuals to step out and to live their authentic lives, to be who they want to be.
It's crazy because to me, it is brave, but it's like the baby step of brave. To some people, it might be like a big deal. It might be like the biggest thing ever.
Sure.
And maybe in America, that's the only thing that they've ever experienced when it comes to braveness.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, braveness is like resistance. It's revolution. It's the things that make you feel powerful in times where you might not feel so powerful. The things that you have to do that you might not feel comfortable doing.
It's all a matter of perspective. Like what you think as brave and what I think is brave might be 2 different things.
For sure.
And I mean, we're talking about, let's lean into it. Let's talk about being brave today. As a younger person, an act of bravery was probably a lot smaller than your acts of bravery. For some of us, just those baby steps are huge moments of bravery. Have you always been this brave?
By default, I feel like I didn't really have a choice from everything I've been through. I just had to stick up and either keep going or give up. And in those moments, I feel like I need to keep going. And that's where a sense of bravery comes from. But also, I wish I lived a life where maybe I didn't have to do so much to feel like I was being brave.
Yeah.
Or in a way, maybe nowadays I feel like people are a little more sensitive, but that comes from a place of being judged nonstop. And I think bravery in that sense is a normal thing. When you are standing in your truth and being who you want to be, that is brave. But in my eyes, it's like, why are we considering that brave? Why is that the norm, that we have made something feel like it needs to be something brave for you to do? Does that make sense?
It's brave because we face opposition. It can be perceived opposition, obviously. But we know, as gay people, and anyone who is a minority or thinks a little differently from anybody else, understands at some point in their life that if they speak on their truth, then they're going to face some kind of opposition, unfortunately. So some of us have to find that bravery in order to step out and speak our truth. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be my truth. You can be brave for someone else's truth also. And so for me, it was a lot easier for me to be brave for someone else than it is to be brave for myself. When I was younger and my family was going to church regularly, and there were these two guys that I was friends with at the church, and we were walking in, and they saw this girl who was around our age, and she was a little heavier. They both started kind of making fun of her. That just really got under my skin, something that she likely didn't have a lot of control over, especially at that age, as your body's changing and everything. I found the bravery in that moment to say to these two guys who were very much more outspoken than me, who were both a little older than me, both bigger than me, that, hey, like, why are you doing this? It really upset me in that moment, and I found the strength to be brave to stand up for her that I may not have found to stand up for myself.
Bravery in this sense feels like confrontational to me, as in regards to, like, I've always been confrontational. So have I always been brave? Because I've had multiple scenarios in that where someone says something who obviously is always bigger than me, especially back in the day when I was even smaller. And they would say something, whether it was racism towards someone else or something, and I'd be like, what the fuck did you just say? I'm very forward in that regards, especially back in the day. Now, obviously, if something's happening out in front of me that's not right, I'm going to say something. But if it's just in the passing and it's two people shouting at each other, I'm moving on. Like, y'all can deal with it. What are we doing here? So I guess I've always been quote unquote brave, but I think that's just comes from the things that have shaped me.
Yeah.
The dark places.
Unfortunately, we as gay people have more opportunities to be brave, for better or for worse.
Saying something out in the street,
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember on more than one occasion just walking along and somebody driving past yelling out the F slur.
In America, I feel like bravery is more of a mindset thing than actual true bravery. Like, it's more of something that dwells in our head that we're just stepping into our truth and saying than actual something in the street where we're like, oh my God, I have to be brave in the moment. Those things do happen for sure. I'm not saying that they don't, but those moments are very more rare than the moments of it's all just in our head. As to where other people in other countries, or let's say Gaza, where the Palestinian people are actually being brave and actually being true to themselves and being proud to be Palestinian, that's true bravery. In my eyes. And I think nowadays we haven't experienced that much in this modern day, especially here in America. Maybe it's someone calls you the F word. Okay, bye.
It's not as common here in the U.S.
For sure.
The need for that extreme bravery. I think we all face little acts of bravery on a daily basis, many of us. But there was a point in time in our country where, where especially gay people had to be very brave.
For sure.
Just a few examples for you, because these are the people that shaped our ability to be as free where we're not as concerned. One of the top ones is going to be Harvey Milk, who, of course, is one of the first openly gay elected officials in the U.S. in the late 70s. And he was a vocal proponent of representation and equal rights despite the death threats. There was, of course, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who were the two transgender women of color who were the prominent activists and central figures at the Stonewall uprising in 1969. We also have more modern day people, the professional sports athletes. There was Michael Sam, who was the first openly gay player drafted into the NFL in 2014. That was just 10 years ago. There was Jason Collins, the first openly gay male athlete in a major U.S. professional sports league. He came out in 2013 while he was still an active NBA player, so in basketball. Then there was Luke Prokop, who was the first under an NHL contract hockey league. And he came out just in 2021. So that was just 3 years ago. So 3 major professional sports, and those were all within just about the last decade that those people came out. And obviously these sports are all male players, and there's a lot of heteronormativity going on in those sports. So to be the one player out of the hundreds and hundreds across the nation, to be that one player that comes out, because surely there are other players that are gay or bi or whatever. So that requires a lot of bravery, I think. For the people who aren't brave at the drop of a hat, I mean, how do we be brave?
You just have to not care that deeply.
But people do. Like, you say that, and like, to tell me just don't care that deeply, that's never going to happen. That's not my personality at all.
But if you keep telling yourself that, then maybe that's true because you're holding yourself to that standard. But if you actually practice it and be like, okay, is this something that is affecting me, or is it really that big of a deal? Like me being gay, okay, or is the world gonna change? Hopefully, maybe it gets better, but I'm not gonna change. I still feel what I feel. I like who I like, and that's not gonna change.
Sure.
So whether someone is having a problem with it, okay, that's your thing to deal with. I don't know what's going on in your mind, but you got to figure it out. My bravery, in a way, doesn't feel like bravery. It feels just like authenticity in my mind. So the more you get to know yourself, it becomes to feel less as bravery and stepping out of my comfort zone to understand who I am and get people to understand who I am.
You said a couple of key words there, the stepping out. And I think one of the things for people who may not feel very brave or who may not be in environments where they can just run out, it's small steps. Many people need to do it in small steps. So if you can find ways to just be brave in little moments, one step at a time, coming out to everyone in your family may not be within your wheelhouse. Just start with one person. Start with, your favorite cousin or a sibling or, somebody who you know will likely be supportive.
To yourself.
Hey, coming out to yourself is the biggest step of all. And yeah, I mean, maybe it is a small step.
It is just, you just tell yourself, okay, is this what I'm feeling? Do I feel like this is who I am? Okay, then say that's who I am. And step into it.
Right. And to me, that's actually another one is just acknowledgement. Like, you have to acknowledge what you're facing, acknowledge why are you actually afraid of this situation.
To me, sometimes bravery just sounds like, especially here in the US, the things that I see that are brave, it just reminds me of a child. Like when you tell a little kid, you have to be brave, you can't be scared. That's what I feel like bravery in the US is like. From the things that we see, I don't think we have that dramatic things all the time that someone's like, you have to be brave. But when it comes to maybe school shootings, which I hate that's a thing. Yeah, obviously the kids need to be brave, but also the fact that that's happening is crazy, and that shouldn't be a thing. But to tell your little kid to be brave, maybe that's a way. But how many times do you hear an adult tell another adult, "Hey, you have to be brave"? It's very rare. It's very, very rare, especially here in the States. Maybe, hey, be happy. Maybe, hey, other things. But bravery, it's very rarely a thing for adults in a way that
it may rarely be a thing that adults say to one another, but there are plenty of adults who go through struggles of bravery. And again, it's all subjective. And yes, are we a little more pampered in the U.S. than other places are? We have the best economy in the world right now. So we've got a lot of great things going for us. We have some not great things going for us as well. And we can certainly look to other places in the world that are going through like serious war and just death and destruction, and understand, yes, they're being brave, but that's not what I'm living in the moment. That's not, what my neighbors are living in the moment. So we have our own struggles. I think there are plenty of adults who do look for resources, look for comfort in finding those moments of bravery.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some things that scare me, but then I also have the mindset of like, if I die, I was authentic to myself. I love the people that I loved, and for the most part, I lived a great life. In my eyes, I mean, it's been a pretty dark life for most of it, but now I'm happy and grateful for all the things that I experienced, because it shaped me to who I am today.
That actually was the next point I was going to talk about. You're just feeding me all these lines today. Yeah. And that is to reframe your failures as growth. We all fail many times over. Sometimes I feel like I have failed more than I've actually succeeded. But it is those failures that allow you to grow as a person. They teach you moments. They provide you strength. They allow you opportunities to find peace in your life. And all of those are great components to actually finding success and happiness. Once you've faced a few of these struggles, it's a lot easier to be brave about a situation once you've already fallen, once you've already failed. At one point in my life, like I lost everything that I had. I lost my partner, I lost my job, I lost my home, I lost all the money, and I had to start over from scratch. And I needed all of the bravery that I could muster just to make it through that. But then what happened to me last year? I lost my job, I lost my partner, didn't lose my house or my bank account, but I lost like two big things. And then, we had some problems with the house. So I was facing what felt like very similar issues that I had faced 10 years earlier. But this time around, I went into it with this level of bravery that I didn't have before. And it's because I had failed in the past. It's because I had fallen and learned as a result that I am capable, that I am strong, and that no matter what happens, you're going to make it through. You may not be in the same situation. It may be better or worse, but you can make it through. And there's peace with that.
I feel like nowadays a lot of bravery in states comes from people's insecurities. When they are feeling some type of way or aren't so sure, that act of braveness is coming out, or whatever, standing in their truth. I hope that we get to a point where that doesn't feel like an act of braveness, and it comes to a place of just being acceptable, and you don't have to feel like there's so much pressure in identifying yourself and presenting yourself that you don't have to feel brave for doing those things. You can just feel like you.
Yeah, that's the goal. Who knows how long it's going to take us to get there.
I mean, it feels like people are getting more and more insecure every day. So we'll see.
I think that one thing we can do when that is the situation is to be kind to ourselves as we're facing situations that we're trying to get that nerve up for, that we're trying to be brave for. It's really easy to kind of kick ourselves a little bit and think, I've never done that before. I can't do that. I failed at this in the past. And if we can just be kind to ourselves, you do have it within you. You do have the capability of doing that.
I don't know. My inner demon's a bitch. So I'm kind of just a bitch back. That's how I fight it. I mean, the only time I ever tell myself nice things is when I'm feeling sad. That's when I tell myself nice things. When it's something playing mind games with myself, like telling myself that I can't do something, or I'm not capable of this, or they don't like you back, or you're not working hard enough. I'm like, false. Yeah. Like, hello, everything I'm doing is nonstop. I'm going for this, this, and this, and it's working out.
I think that is being kind to yourself. You're like, I got this. Like, you're building yourself up.
Growing up, your subconscious mind is who you are for most of your life. Like, that's who it is. And Julio back in the day, oh my God.
Yeah.
Jail. In my eyes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even a couple times when I've tried shrooms, that's definitely when the voices came out even harder. And I'm like, is this how I truly feel about myself? Are these the voices that are coming out? I'm like, whose voice is that? And then I start to think, oh my God, it's my voice.
Yeah.
It's my voice that I'm, not recognizing, because most of the time I'm uplifting, but on the shrooms, I haven't done shrooms in a while. It's been multiple years, but I was a very adventurous young 20-year-old who would try anything at least once, except the hard stuff. That's not for me.
No.
This is at least a plant.
Yeah.
It was just more of like, okay, Julio, what really is important to you? What really does matter? Like, do I really feel this way about myself? A lot of it was mainly talking shit about myself. Like, oh, you think you're going to be a DJ? You can't DJ. You're not better than blah, blah, blah. Like, it was a lot of those voices. And I'm like, is this how I really feel about myself? But then I'm like, no, I put in the work. I do change my mindsets and grow, and that's all I strive for. So maybe it's just my mind being a bitch for whatever reason.
I think the need for bravery comes from ourselves. We do often think negatively of ourselves. And I think a lot of times the people who seem to go through life extremely brave, there's no mountain that they can't climb. They are always up for any challenge. They're the people who many times are not talking negatively towards themselves. They're the people who are lifting themselves up. You got this. You got it. And I think the need for bravery is because we kind of talk down on ourselves a bit. And a lot of that just comes from experience. Like, I don't have experience in that. I don't know if I can do that. And as we face these challenges, all of a sudden we have self-doubt. So unfortunately, bravery is the antidote to the venom that we are feeding ourselves when we tell ourselves we can't do something.
Yeah.
And one other potential way to find bravery is to visualize your success. And that's what you were just saying. Like, yeah, you can do this, but it does require a path. Like, you're not just going to wake up one day and all of a sudden be a great DJ. You have to practice. I'm sure you watch some YouTube videos, read up on how to do this or that. It's like with anything that is worthwhile doing, like you have to put in the work, and you just don't go and put in the work. Most of us, we think of ourselves as being successful in that. Okay, if I'm going to spend all these hours doing this thing, where do I imagine myself being in 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? And I think you have that plan.
Sure.
I don't know if you're that 5-year plan person. I never really was, but you're definitely, I've got a plan.
Yeah. 5 years too far ahead for me to think. I can barely, when you ask me, hey, what do you got going on this next weekend on the evening? I'm like,
I'm aware.
I don't know, dude. Like, you're asking me for a lot right now.
Yeah, I'm aware.
But there are goals.
Yeah.
And whenever I get them, I get them. Whenever I reach them and the steps and the progress gets to it, it gets to it.
And goals are great. It gives you an opportunity to kind of visualize, daydream about where you're going to be, where you could be with this. And then obviously set realistic steps.
Yes.
Again, going back to those baby steps sort of situations, like how can I fight the situation without tackling it all at once? Well, it starts with X, Y, and Z, and then I'll get there. Yeah. Another great way to be brave is to surround yourself with brave people. Surround yourself with supportive people. Surround yourself with people who maybe have done the sort of things that you want to do, whether it's speaking your truth out loud or following your dreams. And I know with our community, and we're very fortunate to have great friend groups, that we have a lot of wonderful, supportive people in our lives. You and I are those supportive people for our friends as well when they're going through something, especially if we've already done it. And I was just talking to a friend this past week who wants to do some podcasting. And my suggestion was, come over. Like we've got all the equipment set up. I've got the software. You can come and watch us do the podcast if you want to, and how we get set up for it and everything. And those are the kind of people, you and I are the kind of people that everyone needs in their life.
But honestly, my circle, I'm capped out. I'll be nice to whoever, but when people are hitting me up nowadays and like, oh, let's go do this and go do that, sometimes I'm like, I barely have time for myself.
Yeah.
You seem like a lovely person, but I am just so tired of exhausted. I like to talk ish. Kinda. Actually,
For 1
I don't
hour,
think I like to talk.
For 1 hour every week.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like, even walking here, I'm like, silence. Let me just. And then I sit down and they're like, okay, let's get this going. Because this is probably the most I talk every week.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
But you don't need, in a lot of ways, you don't need a support system. No. But there's so many people that do. I know I certainly did at one point. I don't know that I need that much support anymore, but I think that's a great time for you to kind of turn it around and like, how can I be a support system for someone else? You can be brave for somebody else, and that can instill bravery in them. And when you're kind to somebody else, when you help them see what the path is ahead of them, it can add to your bravery as well. You may not need much of it, but many of us do.
I feel like at a point, maybe 2-3 years ago, I probably did need a little bit more. But at that point, I thought I was a lot closer to people, and I felt like I needed the support for whatever reasons or things that I was doing, and I wasn't getting it. And then I'm like, y'all are my friends. Why am I not seeing the support that I would give to you, or vice versa? And that's when I really started to be like, okay, you've been alone most of your life. You've done a lot of crazy things. You have yourself, and that is enough for me. Yeah. That works for me. I got to a point where I'm comfortable with it. Do I reach out to some? I mean, you're probably the only person that I really,
Well, I was
that
gonna
I really open up to, and that's even rarely if I need it. You know, like
Yeah.
that's most of the time. If I got something going on, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
And but also, I don't take everyone's advice because back in the day when I would open up to people, I'm like, why would I? Okay, maybe I shouldn't have asked you for advice because not that the advice isn't bad, but I feel like I've experienced more than the normal person that
Yeah.
the advice sometimes isn't really valid in my eyes.
Well, and your support systems don't have to be a group of 20 people. Like I know your friend group is large, my friend group is large, but the people who I would actually turn to when I need something, obviously you, and you're probably tired of it, but you're probably the first person who, whenever anything happens, I come to you immediately.
For sure.
And there might be two other people that I would immediately go to in those moments. And it takes a while. You've got to find your support system. Just because you fall in line with somebody because they are your age and y'all are all at the bar, or you work together, or you're in the same apartment complex, that doesn't mean these people are going to be longtime friends and that they are really your support system.
I will say I need to be better, or I have been getting better. I've been working on it. I think I'm very empathetic. Like I can listen to people and understand where they're coming from, but there's just this thing about me where like since I've experienced so much, I question a lot. I'm like, why are you feeling this way? Should you even be feeling this way? And that in a way can be disregarding to someone's feelings, and it's like, well, you're not getting the point right now. But in my mind, I'm like, I've already experienced this times 10, and that's where my perspective is coming from. So this to me is like a little salt when I've experienced like a lot of seasoning, you're giving me like 1 grain of salt, and I'm like, babe, you shouldn't be upset about this.
I'm glad you recognize that
sure.
you should be more empathetic, because it is all subjective. It is about perspective, and a lot of people have led more charmed lives than you have. The weight of a problem, of a situation, is different for each person. You have built up a strength that a lot of people haven't. At this point in my life, I have built up a strength that a lot of people haven't. But at your age, I had not built up anywhere close to that kind of strength.
I just can't help but to not question. You know, like I want to know where people are coming from and their feelings, but I still want to question it. Where is this coming from? You know, like what is the root of this?
Sure, then there's nothing wrong with that, but just don't judge them in the process of doing that.
To me, it's just like, especially if we're friends, like, hey, I know who you are. I see your value. I see your strengths. I know what an amazing person you are. You shouldn't be letting something like this bring you down. And that's where my attitude sometimes can be a little off when someone's like, I just need love. I just need feelings right now. I need you to feel for me. And I do feel for you. But I'm also that person to be like, come on, get up. Like, no, we're not doing this. We're not staying in that low place. If you need time to like regroup, I'll give you space for sure.
Yeah.
But if you're coming to me, I don't know how to not be real.
I think it's important that we recognize that everyone's needs, and you even said it, are different. And especially if they're communicating to you, hey, this is what I need in this moment, you got to accept what they need. And it's just like when you're in a
But I'm gonna leave you thinking.
And there's that's okay, but let the other person kind of take the lead.
1,000%. I have made people feel bad from being a little too forwardly honest. But then I obviously can tell when I'm making someone feel bad, so then I instantly apologize and acknowledge what I did or said or whatever was not okay, and it made them feel bad, and I don't want them to feel bad. So
Yeah.
I know how to move around it. But if you are asking a Scorpio who's also Latino, who's also gay, what their perspective is on something, when Scorpios are the most passionate, intense signs to exist. Also, happy Scorpio season to you Scorpios, because there's a lot of you out there, and you've given us a bad rep. Maybe I've given us a bad rep. I don't know. But either way, I feel like I'm one of the good ones.
Yeah. So my last point on bravery is to remember to balance bravery with wisdom. And you don't necessarily need to just rush in head first into any situation. Sometimes it's better to kind of pause. Sometimes you might need to actually avoid the situation altogether. Might be the smartest thing to do. So being brave is fine, but being smart is also equally wonderful.
The one takeaway I'm going to give to this episode is, am I feeling insecure, Or is this something that actually has that level of depth or intensity of braveness? Is this something that I can reflect on and be like, okay, it's just how I'm feeling right now. It's actually not that deep. And you can accept what it is, to where you don't have to feel like I'm being brave in the moment. Just accept who you are, live in it. No one needs an explanation completely. If you feel like you need to give someone an explanation, sure. But I hope people get to a point where they can just be who they are and don't have that extra sense of weighted pressure on, oh my God, I have to be brave in this moment. When in reality, we can just accept what is and what will be and move on from it.
Yeah, bravery's a process though, and once you build that up, I mean, you need bravery to get there, but once you've built it up, then you're just kind of operating by default in bravery. And you don't even think about, I need to be brave. You don't think about, I'm scared in this moment. And you're just operating that way. And that would be the ideal situation. But many of us have a long way to go. And society, unfortunately, is holding us back to a degree.
Well, you're brave, I think. I don't know
Yeah.
I don't know what a white man in America who isn't straight, but a white man in America has done to be brave.
Yeah.
You being gay adds some oomph to it for sure.
Yeah.
But
It added all of the oomph that I needed to knock me down quite a bit.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It's all subjective, and we don't judge.
No. Unless you're a white straight male, then I'm judging.
Yeah, then we're judging. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
And to those, oh my God, I do have some white straight friends, but they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's Austin. It's
Yeah.
a different vibe sometimes here.
But they don't need to be judged. They're good.
Correct.
They're doing the right things.
Yeah, moving on.
We'll they're your friends. Call them out.
Oh, I do.
Okay,
I
perfect.
definitely do.
Perfect.
That's probably why they keep me around.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Julio.
Of course, Daniel, I love you.
Love you too. Thanks, audience. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Hasta luego.